If you think 2020 was a bad year, get ready for a serious vibe check from Earth's history. We're talking about times when the oceans turned acidic, the air was choked with ash, and the sun disappeared behind the sky for decades. Today's journey will take you through endless ice ages and volcanic eruptions that lasted for millions of years. Get ready, because this list is about to take your definition of the word disaster to a whole new level. Number 5. The Late Devonian Extinction, 360 million years ago. It all began around 360 million years ago, when Earth was going through a fascinating period of change. The first forests appeared and spread so rapidly that no one could have seen it coming. But here's the saddest plot twist. The plants themselves helped trigger a disaster. Their deep root systems broke apart rocks and released huge amounts of nutrients into the oceans, fueling massive algal blooms that drained oxygen from the water. The result? About 75% of Earth's species literally suffocated. To give you an idea of just how extensive this vegetation was, the root systems were so dense and complex that if you somehow stretched them out in a straight line, they'd probably reach from Earth to the moon and back thousands of times. I honestly have to give those plants some credit. They're the lungs of the planet, but back then they accidentally turned vast areas of the ocean into dead zones. Fortunately, ancient creatures like Dunkleosteus, a heavily armored fish that looked like a miniature tank, left behind fossils, giving us a glimpse of just how impressive they once were. Number 4. The Triassic-Jurassic Extinction Event, 200 million years ago. Next comes a story from 200 million years ago, when the supercontinent Pangaea began to tear apart. Massive volcanic eruptions continued for millions of years, releasing enormous amounts of CO2 and turning the planet into something that felt like a giant oven. Around 75% of all species disappeared because they simply couldn't survive the extreme temperatures. To put that heat into perspective, imagine charging 1 billion Tesla vehicles at the same time inside a sealed room with no air conditioning. Sounds like pure torture, right? In the middle of this nightmare, a small group of creatures managed to survive and seize the opportunity. They would go on to dominate the planet for the next 135 million years, the dinosaurs. If I had been around back then, I probably would have chosen permanent hibernation and called it a day. But this is the ultimate underdog story. A group of survivors rose from the shadows and became the rulers of the world. That's perseverance on an epic scale. Number 3. The Cretaceous-Paleogene Extinction, 66 million years ago. This is probably the most visually dramatic disaster in Earth's history. Around 66 million years ago, while the dinosaurs were enjoying their golden age, an uninvited visitor from space paid a visit to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. A massive asteroid slammed into Earth with the force of billions of Hiroshima atomic bombs. Everything living near the impact site was instantly vaporized, leaving nothing behind. Not even bones. Earthquakes estimated at around magnitude 11 shook the planet, and a wall of water more than a mile high swept across the oceans. To make things even worse, dust and debris blocked out the sun for nearly 10 years, bringing plant growth to a complete halt. No cap, Earth looked like a dark and terrifying version of hell at that point. About 75% of all life disappeared, bringing the age of the giants to an end. If you had a time machine, would you dare travel back to witness this cosmic fireworks show? I definitely wouldn't. Number 2. The Ordovician-Silurian Extinction, 444 million years ago. Let's travel even farther back in time, about 444 million years ago. At this point, most life on Earth existed in the oceans. Then, the continent of Gondwana drifted toward the South Pole, triggering a severe ice age that lasted up to 400,000 years. So much ice formed that sea levels dropped dramatically, devastating shallow marine habitats and coral reefs. As a result, about 85% of marine species were wiped out. The amount of ice locked up on the planet was so enormous that if it were somehow divided among today's global population, each person would end up with enough ice to equal the weight of several thousand stacked Big Macs. It was a brutally cold ending for the ocean's early inhabitants. I honestly feel bad for the trilobites. One moment they were happily swimming around, and the next, their entire existence got permanently frozen out. Number 1. The Permian-Triassic extinction, 250 million years ago. And here it is, the final boss of our list. The event known as the Great Dying. Around 250 million years ago, massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia continued for hundreds of thousands of years, releasing enormous amounts of toxic gases into the atmosphere. Earth's temperature rose by as much as 10 degrees Celsius, oxygen levels in the oceans plummeted, and the planet was transformed into a giant pressure cooker. The result was catastrophic. 96% of marine species and 70% of land animals vanished forever. This was the closest life on Earth has ever come to being completely wiped out. The scale of destruction was so overwhelming that even Marvel's superheroes would have had no chance of stopping it. Can you imagine it? Just 4% of living species survived and eventually rebuilt the world we know today. That is nothing short of an absolute miracle. After going through these 5 times when our planet nearly didn't make it, do you feel a little lucky that you're here today, scrolling on your phone and breathing fresh air? If you could choose to be a species that survived one of these 5 disasters, would you rather be a mighty dinosaur or a tiny but incredibly resilient fungal spore? Let me know your choice in the comments. I'll be judging everyone's survival skills and ranking just how hard you are to wipe out. That's all for today's story. Now I've got to go deal with a mini disaster in my kitchen. I just tried installing a smart cooking app and it somehow convinced my microwave to start a small rebellion after I accidentally put a metal spoon inside. Technology may be advancing at lightning speed, but my survival skills apparently are still stuck back in the Ordovician. Anyway, I need to go put out a fire. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.